So, let's learn some history. Aeschylus and the Misguided Eagle. Aeschylus was an ancient Greek playwright often called the father of tragedy, but despite writing some of the most intense dramas in history, his own death was the most absurd tragedy of all. Legend says that Aeschylus was terrified of a prophecy that predicted he would be killed by a falling object. To avoid this, he decided the safest place to be was outside, in a wide-open field where nothing could possibly fall on him. No roofs, no trees, no problems. Or so he thought. At the same time, a hungry eagle was flying overhead carrying a large live tortoise. Now, eagles have a very specific way of eating tortoises. They find a large, smooth rock and drop the tortoise onto it from a great height to crack the shell open. From the eagle's perspective, Aeschylus's shiny, bald head looked exactly like the perfect rock. The eagle let go, the tortoise accelerated at 9.8 meters per second squared, and Aeschylus was killed instantly by a falling reptile. He spent his whole life avoiding the indoors, only to be taken out by a bird with bad aim. It remains history's most literal example of a head-on collision.
Hans Steininger and the Deadly Beard. Hans Steininger was a 16th century Austrian mayor who was famous for one thing: having the world's most magnificent beard. It was nearly 5 feet long, which meant it was actually taller than some of the children in his town. Usually, Hans kept his glorious facial hair tucked away in a small leather pouch or rolled up so he didn't trip over it while doing mayor stuff. However, in 1567, a massive fire broke out in his town, and everyone started panicking. In the absolute chaos of the evacuation, Hans forgot to tuck his beard away. As he was rushing down a flight of stairs to escape the flames, he stepped right on the tip of his own beard. This caused him to lose his balance and tumble down the stairs, resulting in a broken neck. He survived a literal town-wide inferno, only to be defeated by his own grooming habits. This is a classic example of your greatest strength becoming your greatest weakness.
The Dancing Plague of 1518. Imagine you're walking through a town in France in 1518, and you see a woman named Frau Trophia just absolutely shredding it in the middle of the street. No music, no party, just pure, unadulterated dancing. You'd think she's just having a good day, right? Except she didn't stop. She danced for 6 days straight. Within a month, about 400 other people had joined her in this bizarre, involuntary marathon. This wasn't a flash mob. It was a medical emergency. People were literally dancing until their hearts gave out or their feet literally fell apart. The local authorities, being the geniuses of the 16th century, decided that the best way to cure the dancers was to make them dance more. They built a stage and hired professional musicians to keep the beat, thinking the people just needed to get it out of their system. This was like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Dozens of people died from exhaustion, strokes, and heart attacks because they physically could not stop moving. Modern scientists think it might have been mass hysteria or a weird fungus called ergot that causes hallucinations and spasms, but nobody knows for sure.
Tycho Brahe and the polite bladder. Tycho Brahe was one of the most important astronomers in history. He had a fake nose made of gold and silver because he lost his real one in a duel over a math equation, which should tell you everything you need to know about his personality. However, his death was far less cool than a gold nose. In 1601, Tycho attended a royal banquet in Prague. In those days, it was considered incredibly rude to leave the table before the host did, especially if the host was a nobleman. Tycho, being a man of high etiquette, sat through a very long dinner and drank a lot of wine. Despite his bladder screaming for mercy, he refused to leave the table because he didn't want to be that guy. By the time he got home, he found that he actually couldn't relieve himself at all. He spent the next 11 days in excruciating pain before his bladder finally burst, leading to a fatal infection. He literally died of politeness.
King Adolf Frederick and the ultimate cheat day. King Adolf Frederick of Sweden is remembered for many things, but mostly for being the man who ate himself into the afterlife. In 1771, the king sat down for a meal that would make a modern competitive eater nervous. He started with lobster, caviar, sauerkraut, smoked herring, and champagne. That sounds like a lot, but he wasn't done. For dessert, he decided to have his favorite treat, hetwag. This is a traditional Swedish pastry filled with almond paste and served in a bowl of hot milk. Now, a normal person might have one, maybe two. Adolf Fredrik had 14 giant cream-filled, milk-soaked buns on top of a mountain of seafood. Unsurprisingly, his digestive system essentially said, "I'm out," and he died of massive digestive complications that same night. He is now known in Swedish history as the king who ate himself to death.